Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. If you've been watching my videos regularly, you might have heard me say this. The Russians are consistent in good or in evil. That is, if the Russians promise you they're going to give you $1, they will give you $1. But if the Russians promise you they're going to punch you in the face, they will punch you in the face. That's their consistency. It seems like the Baltic states did not get that. Now, since the garbage in Ukraine, certain states were activated by Great Britain and by the United States of America to challenge the Russian bear. The Russian bear has no problem fighting anybody on this planet. Why? Because the Russian bear is strong, and Russian bear knows that he is strong. The problem is, these little countries, the little bottom feeders, like for instance Estonia in this case, because that's the subject of this video, was activated by the Brits and by the Americans to a certain extent to challenge the Russians. Now, Russia has a population of 145 million people with about 7,400 nuclear warheads and, the biggest country in the world as landmass. On the other hand, we have Estonia, 1.3 million people, like a village in Russia, with an army of about 3 chicken, 5 turkeys and 5 horses, all lined up, and that's about it. And a country like this. Now they're activated by their masters, which are the Brits in this case. And what do? They did all kind of stuff with the Russian population inside Estonia. Now, about 24%, about 20% of the population Estonians living in Estonia is ethnically Russian. So you got 1 in 5, potentially between 1 in 5 and 1 in 4, being possibly a spy, or someone who has a different allegiance, someone who speaks a different language, someone who is in your country. But these guys don't care in Estonia, and they did all kind of harassment towards this minority, including destroying the monuments of the Soviet army, in which were Ukrainians as well. There were others. The fight against the Nazis. They destroy, they deface, they do whatever they do. So what happened now? Estonia impounded a Russian vessel. They said, okay, because Great Britain placed sanctions on Russia, Estonia impounded Russia's vessel, supposedly from the shadow fleet of Russia, because of Great Britain's sanctions, okay? So this country impounded this country's vessel. And what did the Russians do? Exactly what they did with the Brits, if you remember, Navy in the Black Sea. Do you remember what happened in the Black Sea with the Navy ship? That's why the Russians are not afraid of these guys, let alone Estonia. So they sent a fighter jet who entered Estonia's territory, went over there, flew over the fuckers, and the fuckers released the Russian vessel. That was one step from destroying Estonia. And the Brits would have been, what should we do? Well, maybe you're going to do what you did in the Second World War. Declare war against Germany, not Soviet Union. But they will not do this. You know why? Because Great Britain knows he's weak. Look who's the defense minister, Mr. Lemmy. Look at his face, look what he says, and you understand they will lose a war against Albania yesterday if they start. Okay? So they know it. That's why Great Britain fights proxy wars. Not because it doesn't want to kill his minorities and whatever. No. They use proxy wars. And when shit comes closer to them, then they say, okay, let's talk about peace. You'll see. So what happened? Let me show you. CNN. Russian fighter jet protects shadow fleet vessel in first such move by Moscow. More to come if the guys in other countries will dare to do this. Why? The Russians told these guys, we will protect our navy, our vessels with our navy. And it seems like they sent fighter jets. What are they going to do? Are they going to shoot a fighter jet? That fighter jet entered Estonia's airspace, violated it. They didn't shoot it down. But now they're all talking and they give their interpretation of reality by CNN. Why? The bitch is crying after it was bitch slapped. But they know. All right. Until last week, a secretive fleet of ships ferrying Russian oil around the world showed no clear links to the Kremlin. That changed when, in a dramatic escalation, Russia used a fighter jet in an apparent effort to protect one of the tankers thought to be in the fleet. Thought to be. But from thought to be, Russia, that changed. So, you see, now it shows clear links to Kremlin that changed. So there were no clear links that changed. That means now there are clear links. Something, a tanker that thought to be. Is the tanker part of that fleet? If you don't know, shut the fuck up. If you know, then we're talking. But they don't know, and then conclusion, that changed. That proved Russia's shadow fleet. First, the Russians should tell the West, we don't agree with your sanctions. We will not abide by your sanctions. If you dare to touch one of my assets, I'm going to smack the fuck out of you. That's what I would do if I would be a Russian, but the Russians seems to be smarter than I am. All right, here it is. After Estonian military, now listen to this. After Estonian military contacted the Jaguar, an unflagged, so contacted. They say, excuse me, can you stop? No, it was not. An unflagged tanker sanctioned by the who? United Kingdom earlier this month on May 13 in an attempt to carry out checks. So it contacted to carry out checks. You know what that is, the translation? They stopped it to climb on it and do searches in the international waters, mind you. And they dragged the vessel into the territorial waters of Estonia. So they went, stopped, got it to climb on it, and they were escorting it to the territorial waters of Estonia. And then the Russian jets showed up and say, "Stoy! I'm gonna fuck you up, Is that how they say it? Something like that. You know what I mean. All right. The Estonian Defense Forces says the military eventually escorted, no, it ordered the tanker, all right? The military eventually escorted the tanker out of the Estonian waters. Why? Because this is something very new, Estonian foreign minister told reporters. Russia has now officially tied and connected itself to the so-called shadow fleet, he added. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Others agree, the same papa. So the problem is with this. The problem is with the connection between the so-called shadow fleet. Why is it a shadow fleet? Because you impose sanctions on them. That's why. And now you call it shadow fleet. Because they say, you know what, if you act like baboons, we're going to be baboons. Remember that Kwan, I think it was a story, a Zen story, or whatever, I read it, I don't know, 50,000 years ago. When it was the master and the student, a samurai. And the student asked the master, "Master, what should I do if I fight with a thief? How should I fight with a crook, with a baboon, with Estonia or Great Britain? How should I fight?" And the master said, "Well, with the thief, you fight like a thief. With the samurai, you fight like the samurai. So the Russians are fighting the Brits like the Brits are fighting. You impose sanctions on us, we're going to fight in the same way. We're going to have a shadow fleet. What are you going to do?" Everything goes to, you know what? This eventually. What are you going to attack me? Are you going to strike me? No, they're going to use the baboon, the bottom feeders of Estonia, and Russians will fuck them up. You'll see that if they dare to raise their snot. All right. Here it is. Russia's use for the first time of military action, they told you, in response to economic sanction, is a treatment to the level of threat, testament to the level of threat that we're facing on the eastern flank of NATO. You see this? They are the victims. They are the victims. French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot told, wait. Let's look over what kind of F-35, whatever Sukhoi 35 right here. After Estonian military conducted a Russian Sukhoi 35 fighter jet flew past the ship inside Estonia's airspace. The military eventually escorted the tanker out. So they took the tanker, and when this Sukhoi entered Estonian airspace, they released it. All right, where is that? This is the beautiful Sukhoi, right there, 35. This is the one that scared the shit out of those baboons. And then let's go to the map. So the French guy from here said something about something that happened right here. This is where it happened. This is Estonia, this is Russia. This is in the Gulf of Finland. This is the territorial waters. This is where it happened. And this guy from, where is it? From here, from France, tells these guys right here, by the way, these guys impose sanctions on this with this guy's hand. So please take, these guys say, hey, take the hot potato of Russia for us. And this guy says, okay, I'm about to feed her. So this is where the whole thing occurred, right here. This is United Kingdom, this is France, this is Estonia, this is Russia. You got it? So now they're crying like babies, my friends. What did they expect? What did they expect? Remember what happened in the Black Sea with that British military vessel approaching the Crimean Peninsula? Do you remember? You remember it happened right after I can remember a few years, 4 years, no, 3 years ago. Not even 3 years ago, about 3 years ago. They were pushing it. And the Russians said, don't come close, we're going to shoot at you. And they fired warning fires, and the Brits went away. Why? The Russians will fuck you up. Remember that Reaper drone the Americans were sending towards Crimea? What that Sukhoi 31 or 35 did? The same thing, bang and out. They have no problem. And they told them. So remember, and who's the victim here? The Estonians are the victim, the French, the Brits. Remember, Great Britain imposed sanctions on Russia, and these guys are the arm that's going to get burned, the finger. Is going to pick up the hot potato, the Russian hot potato. What do you think will happen? In one of these incidents, one of these countries will think that have big balls, like let's say Poland. And they will do the same thing as the Estonians did. When the Russians will do the same thing they did to the Estonians, one, itchy finger from the Poles with the balls, thinking that now we're going to get the Ruskies again. They will do it. And then the Russians are going to fuck them up. The Russians have no patience with the following countries. I will show you on the map. I'm going to explain why. So, Russians don't have patience with Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and that's about it. These are the countries that spoke so much shit, and Great Britain. That Great Britain is way ahead of everybody else. But they know, Russian Federation knows that these guys act in the behest of the United Kingdom and the Americans. So unfortunately, these guys, not Belarus, these guys right here, the Baltic states, total population 6.1 million people, and Poland almost 40 million. Okay, Poland is a bigger country, but a few Oreshnik will put Poland into no country again. All right, so this is what's going on. These are the ones. They will have no patience. They might have patience with the baboons in Romania, with the Bulgarians, with others, but not with this one. And they know it. The Poles know it. The Baltic states know it, but they still push the limit. What else do you want? I mean, they showed you they will enter your airspace, man, with their military. And they're going to say, now what? What are you going to do? Go back over there, take your underwear, wash them, brush your teeth, go to bed, man. Shut the fuck up. And that's exactly what's going to happen. We'll see. One of these incidents will get in a bing, bing, bing. And we'll see how the Russians will release it. The Russians will hit these countries. And then the West is going to be like, which is the Brits and the Americans. Now what? We didn't expect this one. Everything was written. The message was on the wall right there. They showed you. Consistently they showed them. Thank you. They showed them with Ukraine too. They told them, you go into Ukraine, but they had a patient. What, 8 years they waited? 8 years the Russians waited. From 2014 until 2022, they waited. And said, back off, back off, back off. It seems like with Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and Poland, I don't think it's going to take but minutes. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.